In America, people don't just leave money. They leave ice cream freezers, dog mansions, UFO landing pads, and instructions written like dares to their own family. This video walks through 49 real last wishes so strange they feel like pranks with legal backing. If you think your relatives are dramatic now, wait until you see what some people put in writing forever. 1. Somewhere in America, a grandfather with a serious ice cream problem decided to haunt his grandkids through dairy. Instead of just leaving cash, he left a giant freezer stuffed with labeled pints, one for each grandchild and each future birthday. The rules in the will were brutal. 1 pint per year, on your birthday only, no taste tests, no trading. Under every lid there is a memory, one piece of advice, and a dad joke so bad it should be a crime. The grandkids say it feels like he is still giving speeches through frozen sugar. They ended up calling it the Cold Wisdom Project because emotional freezer therapy sounded too weird. 2. One guy's final financial plan could have included trusts, investments, maybe a scholarship. Instead, his will boiled down to a single line: spend it all on something ridiculous. That was it. So the family held a meeting, argued like it was Congress, and finally agreed on a full-size Millennium Falcon replica in the backyard. They wired it, furnished it, turned it into a guest house with fake control panels and glowing hyperdrive lights. Neighbors got a permanent view of galactic nonsense. The heirs now sleep in a spaceship and tell themselves he would have approved. If not, well, he should have been more specific. 3. One grandmother took sentimental to a mildly haunted level. Her instructions after cremation? Put her ashes in a salt shaker and sprinkle her over French fries at the next family reunion. In the will she wrote, "I seasoned your childhood with love. Now season me back, and do not you dare waste me." So the family actually did it. They sat around a long table, quietly passing a shaker that used to be grandma, dusting fries while trying not to overthink it. Some cried, some laughed, some just stared at their plate. It was heartfelt, bizarre, and very on-brand for a woman who never underseasoned anything. 4. Only a clockmaker would decide, my legacy should be noise. A retired one left more than 300 antique clocks to his town, with one condition: every single clock had to chime in unison at noon every day. City employees spent days winding, setting, and muttering under their breath. Now, at exactly 12, the town square erupts into a chaotic tsunami of chimes that sounds like time itself is malfunctioning. Tourists record it like it is an art piece. Locals time their errands to avoid being in the blast zone. Somewhere, that clockmaker is probably laughing every time someone flinches at lunch. 5. If you ever doubted dog people are serious, meet the woman who ran a miniature poodle rescue and then built them a mansion from beyond the grave. Her will funded a full-scale replica of her house, redesigned entirely for dogs. Couch height, paw level, stairs, replaced with wide ramps. There is a crystal chandelier, velvet dog sofas, portraits of former rescues, and yes, a working elevator just for poodles. Visitors now tour what is basically a luxury dog hotel called the Pampered Pup Palace, while the dogs ride the elevator like tiny furry aristocrats. Meanwhile, human housing prices remain an unsolved mystery. 6. One man simply refused to let Christmas ever end. Before he died, he decorated a tree down to the last ornament, then had it sealed in a climate-controlled storage unit. His will ordered that the exact same tree be dragged out and placed in the town square every December until the apocalypse or further notice. The lights still work, more or less. Every ornament is a tiny framed picture of one of his cats, silently judging from the branches. Kids think it is magical. Adults are stuck explaining why a stranger's cat army is now part of the official holiday display. 7. A retired toy inventor basically turned his childhood into a religion. He used his savings to build a full-scale replica of his childhood bedroom inside a warehouse, down to the pattern on the bedspread and the toys on the floor. His will states that nothing inside can ever be moved, improved, or modernized. Anyone entering must come in barefoot and bring a toy as an offering to the room. Locals now talk about going there like it is a pilgrimage. People step quietly onto the old rug, leave action figures or stuffed animals by the bed, and walk out looking like they just had therapy with a nightlight. 8. One woman's relationship with the number 7 could have stayed a fun personality quirk. Instead, she turned probate into performance art. Her will could only be read at exactly 7 minutes past 7 in the morning on the 7th day of the 7th month in room 707 of a specific hotel. Her lawyer had to drag half-awake relatives into a hotel conference room at sunrise and sit there staring at the clock like it was a bomb. When the time hit, the will turned out to be surprisingly normal, but everyone walked away feeling like they had just survived the world's strangest ritual. 9. Leave it to a Las Vegas poker champion to turn his will into one last gamble. He wrote that his entire estate would go to the luckiest person alive on the day I die. How do you test that? At his wake, every attendee got a scratch-off ticket. Family, friends, random +1s who came for the free buffet, everyone. The winner turned out to be a guy who barely knew him and almost skipped the event. He scratched off a big win and walked out with more than $3 million. The gamblers called it poetic. The relatives called it deeply irritating. 10. Somewhere, a dog groomer looked at her town and thought, "You people need a prom, but with more fur." In her will, she left $50,000 to fund an annual canine prom. Once a year, the community center fills with dogs in bow ties, sequined dresses, and tiny shoes they absolutely hate. There is a dance floor, a prom photo setup, and a vote for prom king and queen that gets unreasonably competitive. All proceeds go to local shelters. It is ridiculous, adorable, and probably the only prom where no one regrets what they wore, except maybe the bulldog in the tiara. 11. A mug-obsessed aunt decided to give her enormous family one last eye-roll challenge. She left each of her 67 nieces and nephews a custom novelty mug plus $1,000 hidden inside. Every mug came with a pun tailored to that person. "You're brutiful," "World's okayest cousin," "Too tired to function." In the will, she added a final twist. If anyone visibly rolled their eyes at the joke, the executor was allowed to deduct $50. According to family legend, nobody has ever tried so hard to keep a straight face while reading a coffee cup. 12. One bird lover decided jewelry was wasted sitting in a box. Her will ordered that her gold and silver pieces be melted down and recast as ornate bird feeders shaped like tiny songbirds. Now, every spring, volunteers hang dozens of shimmering metal sparrows, finches, and wrens in her favorite park, each one filled with seeds. In the morning sun, they glitter like a jewelry display. By afternoon, they are mobbed by cardinals and chickadees who could not care less that they are eating from what used to be expensive bracelets. Her diamonds may be gone, but the park is officially blinged out for wildlife. 13. There are transit fans, and then there was this guy. A lifelong subway addict left his fortune not to family, but to the city's transit agency, on the condition that one train be renamed after him. For 10 years, commuters climbed aboard the Lenny Express during rush hour, staring at the signage like it had to be a joke. Rumors spread that this train broke down less, ran slightly more on time, and somehow felt nicer. Was it true? Who knows? But if your dream is to become part of the daily announcement system, this man completed the mission. 14. A former Vegas magician saw death as the perfect excuse for one last trick. His will said the estate would go to whoever can unlock the box under the stairs. That was it. After he died, the family found a heavy wooden chest hidden in the basement, locked with 6 different types of locks, all stubborn, none labeled. Over the years, they have hired locksmiths, puzzle experts, and one overconfident internet personality. The box has not budged. The money is technically still sitting inside. At this point, the real illusion might be watching how long the family can stay polite about it. 15. Somewhere, a woman looked at her love for frogs and thought, "This should be a building." Her will funded a frog appreciation center in her town, which everyone assumed was a misprint. It was not. The center now has live frogs in glass habitats, frog paintings on the walls, educational signs, and a hopstacle course where kids bounce along padded lily pads. Once a year, they host a frog festival that started as a joke and turned into a surprisingly profitable event. The town went from rolling its eyes to selling frog-themed souvenirs. Her legacy is loud, green, and surprisingly popular. 16. In Texas, one very specific cat owner turned her will into a royal decree. She left her cat Duchess a mansion, full-time maid, and a personal chef. That alone is wild. But the real drama was in the fine print. Anyone working with the cat was forbidden from calling her Kitty, Baby, or any nickname. Her name is Duchess, the will warned. Treat her accordingly, or lose everything. Staff now address the cat like a strict boss with claws. Friends say the house feels less like a home and more like a very small monarchy with excellent tuna. 17. An Oregon artist clearly decided that even death should count as a mixed media project. His will requested that his ashes be combined with paint and used to create 100 abstract paintings. A local gallery agreed, probably before thinking too hard about it. The finished series, titled Reincarnated Brushstrokes, is a collection of swirling, intense canvases where the artist is literally baked into every layer. Visitors argue whether it is genius, unsettling, or both. The gallery stays packed, the debate never ends, and somewhere he is probably enjoying the fact that people finally cannot ignore his work. 18. One retired pilot turned his will into a permission slip to run away. Each grandchild received a sealed envelope marked, "Open when you're ready to fly." Inside was a plane ticket to anywhere in the world and a handwritten note starting with, "Stop asking if you should, just go." One used it to chase northern lights in Iceland. Another went full nostalgia and flew to Disney World. And one has left the envelope untouched because choosing is terrifying. The tickets will expire. The point does not. He basically reached out from beyond the grave to say, "Indecision is also a decision, kid." 19. A man whose entire personality centered on pigeons managed to make 87 birds part of his estate plan. His will passed on his rooftop coop and $100,000 to whoever agreed to care for every single pigeon. Each bird came with a handwritten profile listing its name, preferred treats, and weird habits. Some were rumored to still carry secret messages around the city. The new caretaker says a few pigeons disappear for hours, then return with crumbs, smudges, and what looks suspiciously like fast food evidence. At this point, it is unclear who owns whom. 20. Only an Elvis superfan would use estate law to stage a casting call. One man wrote that his house would go to the first person who could convincingly impersonate Elvis Presley for a full 24 hours straight. No breaks from the accent, no costume changes out of the jumpsuit, no slipping back into normal personality. Hopeful heirs spent a day eating fried peanut butter and banana sandwiches, speaking in a drawl, and trying to sleep while still being Elvis. The eventual winner powered through the entire night in sequins and sideburns, and woke up owning a house and probably several regrets. 21. A professional mime's last act was torturing a group of lawyers without saying a word. He left everything to a silent retreat center, but only if every closing document, signature, and discussion happened with absolutely no spoken words. No whispering, no, just this once. The real estate deal turned into a full-body performance, with lawyers aggressively miming concepts like liability and penalty clause while scribbling on dry erase boards. By the end, everyone had sore arms, a signed contract, and a new appreciation for subtitles. The retreat got the money. The attorney got a story that still sounds made up. 22. A conspiracy theorist in Montana left behind exactly what you would expect and somehow still too much. His will revealed a hidden underground bunker packed with food, water, gold bars, survival manuals, and a single dusty VHS tape labeled, "Watch this when they come." He instructed his heirs only to enter if the sky ever turned purple. Naturally, they watched the tape immediately. It was 47 minutes of him in a tinfoil hat, warning about them without bothering to define who they are. The supplies are useful, the gold is serious, and the tape is proof that the internet is dangerous in the wrong hands. 23. One man who loved time capsules decided that if his heirs wanted money, they were going to have to go on a road trip first. Before he died, he buried 50 capsules across the United States, each containing pieces of his estate. Stock certificates, rare collectibles, cryptic notes. His will included a hand-drawn map that looks like someone let a treasure-obsessed teenager loose with markers. So far, only 12 capsules have been found. The rest have spawned road trips, internet forums, and a small army of amateur treasure hunters. It is like national treasure, except the villain is boredom, and the budget is much smaller. 24. In Minnesota, one man spent 40 years building a dollhouse so detailed it makes real estate listings look lazy. His mini mansion has working lights, tiny framed photos, rugs, and a grand piano that can play short tunes. In his will, he insisted it be put on display for curious children and adults who forgot how to be curious. Now it sits in a local museum, with kids pressed to the glass and grown adults pretending they are examining the craftsmanship for the kids. It is the only house in town everyone can agree is actually worth the asking price. 25. A tech entrepreneur with a flair for drama basically left a puzzle instead of a will. He passed on a single flash drive stuffed with heavily encrypted files and a short note. The real treasure lies within. No passwords, no hint. Just that. Programmers in the family took a crack at it. Then strangers on the internet joined in. Then a small documentary crew got interested. Years later, nobody has broken the encryption. The drive might contain a fortune, a confession, or a 1-hour video of him laughing at the camera. The cruel part is knowing he would enjoy all three opinions equally. 26. A woman who collected vintage hats treated them less like fashion and more like therapy tools. In her will, she assigned each dramatic piece to someone she thought needed more flair in life. Every hat arrived with a handwritten note explaining why. A shy neighbor got a towering feathered creation with instructions to wear it when the world tries to shrink you. A stressed-out cousin received a floppy sun hat and a reminder to go outside. The hats were worth money, sure, but the real inheritance was being forced to leave the house wearing something that made hiding impossible. 27. A fashion designer in San Francisco clearly believed style should be auditioned for. Instead of just leaving their wardrobe to relatives, they set up a style test in the will. Anyone who wanted a share had to build an outfit using only thrift store clothing and duct tape, then model it in a runway show. The results looked like high art and mild disaster had a baby. The winning ensemble was a fitted suit assembled from vinyl records, duct tape seams, and a blizzard of feather bows. The prize was hundreds of thousands of dollars in couture, and a life story no one will ever believe without pictures. 28. One amateur poet refused to let accountants decide who was worthy. His will said everything would go to the most poetic soul among his grandchildren, to be determined by a family poetry contest. They turned the living room into a low-budget open mic night. Some delivered shaky rhymes, some read surprisingly emotional free verse, and one 9-year-old stepped up and dropped a haiku so sharp, the room just stopped. She walked away with a house, 3 cats who did not vote for her, and shelves of his old notebooks. 17 syllables for an entire estate is a pretty good rate. 29. An Arizona man hated his homeowners association so much, he weaponized his afterlife. In his will, he left $100,000 to a law firm with one job: file as many petty, fully legal complaints against his HOA as the budget would allow. Mailbox height, fence colors, holiday decorations, bird baths. Nothing was too minor. Over time, board members started quitting, meetings turned into group therapy, and the rules had to be rewritten just to calm everybody down. He did not burn the place down or sue anyone into oblivion. He just let paperwork do the haunting for him. 30. A professional escape room designer decided his final test would be on his own family. Instead of handing the will to a lawyer, he hid it somewhere in his house and built a full puzzle trail leading to it. Relatives had to decode messages hidden in paintings, rearrange books, find keys taped under tables, and crawl through a hallway vent that no one knew existed. It took 2 days, several arguments, and one minor panic attack before they finally found the will rolled up inside a hollow lamp. Halfway through the ordeal, they discovered a practice prize, a pizza coupon. The man died exactly as he lived, annoying and clever. 31. A millionaire in rural Montana apparently wanted to make sure aliens had a decent parking spot. His will set aside $500,000 to build a formal UFO landing pad on his property. It had to have runway lights, a circular platform, and welcome signs written in 3 fictional alien languages he invented himself. Construction crews did the job, took the money, and left behind a perfectly empty landing pad waiting under the stars. Locals drive by, shake their heads, and joke that if extraterrestrials ever land there, they're going to turn around immediately and report that Earth is already taken. 32. In California, a man decided his true heir was his dog, Max, and the law just had to deal with it. His will left all his savings to a trust for Max, with a bizarre condition. The dog had to be dressed in a tuxedo every Sunday. A caretaker now suits him up weekly, takes photos as proof, and submits them to the trustee. Max even has a lawyer managing his finances. Neighbors are used to seeing a serious-looking dog in formal wear, being walked like he is late for a shareholder meeting. Max, of course, only understands that Tuxedo Day seems to come with extra treats. 33. Comedian Jack Benny turned romance into a long-running post-credit scene. In his will, he arranged for a single red rose to be delivered to his wife every day for the rest of her life. No explanation attached, no dramatic speeches, just a fresh rose at the door, day after day, long after he was gone. The deliveries continued for nearly a decade. Friends said she never entirely got used to it and never really stopped smiling about it either. It is sweet, theatrical, and just competitive enough to raise the bar for every other husband on the planet. 34. A wealthy beekeeper in Georgia decided his bees were basically tiny citizens with rights. His will set up a trust for the benefit of the bees, paying caretakers to tend the hives, plant flowers, and keep all honey local. Selling it out of state was strictly forbidden. In his words, "The bees belong to this land, and so does what they make." The farm now operates as a bee sanctuary and educational center where visitors learn more about pollination than they planned. The insects got protected status. The humans got a reminder that even the honey has stronger job security than they do. 35. A former cruise ship performer never really got over his favorite role in a tiny community theater. Years later, his will left his entire fortune to that same small-town troupe, with extremely specific conditions: build a new stage, paint every wall seafoam green, and fund an annual musical about his life called The Legend of Marty. They followed instructions. Once a year, the town gathers in a bright green theater to watch a full show about one man's medium-level fame. Reviews are mixed, attendance is solid, and somewhere Marty is enjoying the fact that he finally gets a guaranteed standing ovation. 36. One office legend took team spirit way too literally. His will requested that his ashes be mixed into elevator lubricant and used on the lifts in the building where he worked for decades. Management agreed for reasons we may never understand. Maintenance carried out the request, and now each elevator has a small plaque reading, "Powered by Phil." Employees ride up and down knowing their former coworker is, in a very real way, still part of the daily grind. It is touching, creepy, and probably the only time human resources had to ask, "Is this allowed?" 37. A woman who adored musicals decided her funeral should feel less like a sermon and more like opening night. Her will demanded that the entire service be done in song. The priest sang the prayers. Friends delivered eulogies as ballads and duets. Pallbearers moved in choreographed steps because of course they did. For the finale, A full choir belted out "Don't Stop Believin'," while confetti fell and her casket was lowered. Some relatives sobbed, some laughed, some did both at the same time. Whatever their reaction, nobody walked away wondering what she loved most in life. 38. A stand-up comedian refused to let death cost him stage time. His ashes were placed inside a microphone-shaped urn and installed under a spotlight at a weekly open mic night. His will required every performer to start their set with, "Great to see Larry still working the room." At first it felt awkward. Over time it turned into a ritual. New comics are told, "You do not skip Larry." So every week he still gets a mention, still opens the show, and still gets at least one guaranteed laugh. Honestly, for a comedian, that is not a bad retirement plan. 39. A woman with no children but 94 houseplants decided her heirs needed to be both willing and hydrated. Her will gave her entire estate to whoever agreed to adopt all of the plants and keep a daily watering journal. The winner was a college student living in a tiny studio who said yes before imagining what 94 plants looked like in one room. Her home turned into a jungle overnight. She started posting about it under the name The Inheritarium, and the account somehow took off. The plants got a dedicated caretaker, she got rent money, and a career based on leafy chaos. 40. A reclusive author handled his legacy like one last mystery novel. He left a large, heavy trunk with a single note. "Do not open this for 50 years, no exceptions." No key, no explanation. His family argued, then reluctantly agreed to obey. The trunk sits in storage like a time bomb, made of curiosity and dust. Fans and conspiracy theorists are already counting down, convinced it holds a lost masterpiece, a confession, or something much weirder. The truth almost does not matter. He guaranteed people would still be talking about him half a century after the memorial service ended. 41. A man who collected vintage typewriters wanted to make sure his grandchildren actually touched something that did not have a touchscreen. He left one typewriter to each grandchild along with a typed note. "You get your share of the inheritance after you write me a letter on this machine." There was one tiny oversight. He died without leaving a mailing address. Some grandchildren typed heartfelt letters and stashed them in a family storage box. Others read theirs aloud at gatherings to wherever he is. The money eventually reached them anyway, but a surprising number never put the typewriters away again. 42. A wealthy dog trainer structured her will like a canine spa menu. She created a trust dedicated solely to her dog's wellness. Monthly massages, aromatherapy sessions, heated beds, paw pedicures, regular play sessions with professional handlers, and strict instructions that they be spoken to only in encouraging tones. Staff basically treat them like Olympic athletes with fur. While humans juggle bills and stress, these dogs are stretching on warm blankets, smelling lavender, and getting their paws moisturized. If reincarnation is real, well-funded house dog in this household seems like the winning option. 43. A woman with a collection of rare taxidermy animals decided they would be less creepy if kids got involved. Her will donated the whole collection to a children's museum, but with one condition. Every animal had to be named by a child. The results were chaotic perfection. Display tags now proudly present Sir Fluffsalot, Captain Nibblestein, and Gregory the Slightly Disappointed Weasel. Museum staff have to say those names with a straight face during tours. What used to be the weird room with stuffed animals is now the loudest corner of the building, and the kids absolutely own it. 44. One man left behind a single locked chest and a handwritten dare. "Whatever is inside is yours, if you are brave enough to open it." Naturally, the family gathered around, recording everything like they were on a reality show. After struggling with the lock and building maximum suspense, they finally cracked it open. Inside was a mirror and a note. "The real treasure is your self-confidence." No gold, no secret, no map, just a motivational poster in physical form. The annoyed groans reportedly lasted longer than the reading of the will. As final dad jokes go, it was flawless and financially useless. 45. A retired librarian in Kansas knew exactly how she wanted her quiet little library to look, like a low-budget spaceship. She left $2 million with strict instructions to massively expand the science fiction section and redo the furniture with a space theme. The staff went all in. Now rocket-shaped chairs, star-patterned carpets, and a life-sized cardboard Spock surround shelves packed with aliens and time travel. Older patrons still find their way to the biographies, kids vanish into the sci-fi corner for hours, and overall checkouts jumped. She basically used her afterlife to win a decades-long argument about which genre deserved more shelves. 46. One former teacher used her will to assign extra credit with real money attached. She promised $10,000 to every former student who could correctly recite the preamble to the Constitution from memory. No notes, no phones, no cheating. Word got out, and suddenly, the local library was full of middle-aged people quietly muttering, "We the people," and trying to drag the rest of the sentence out of storage. Some nailed it and walked away with a payout. Others froze halfway through and went home with nothing but a reminder that yes, she really meant it back then. 47. A musician from Detroit wanted his funeral to sound like his life. Loud, complicated, and full of people who never got formal invitations. In his will, he asked for his final concert to be played by an orchestra made entirely of street musicians he had supported over the years. They gathered, rehearsed, and performed at the cemetery while his casket, shaped like a giant guitar case, rested nearby. The performance was messy, emotional, and absolutely perfect. People said it felt less like a goodbye and more like a final set where he just happened not to make it to the encore. 48. One father who adored puzzles refused to leave his kids with a simple signature and a handshake. He turned his will into a scavenger hunt, running through their entire childhood. Clues were hidden under the old porch steps, taped inside kitchen cabinets, tucked into a tackle box at the lake. Each location came with a memory written in his handwriting and a hint to the next stop. The final clue led them back to their old treehouse, where the deed to his lake house sat sealed in a waterproof capsule. It was exhausting, emotional, and probably the most meaningful reading of the will they could have gotten. 49. A woman in Oregon wrote her will like someone who absolutely refused to miss a notification. She asked to be buried with her smartphone, a charger, and a prepaid phone plan extended for 5 years, just in case. The family placed the phone in her hands before the casket closed. Her carrier, blissfully unaware, still sends monthly plan updates and special offers to her account. Relatives joke that if anyone figures out how to text from the afterlife, it will be her, probably at 3 in the morning, asking why no one is responding. Some habits, apparently, refuse to stay above ground. After these 49 wills, house, car, and savings suddenly feels lazy. So answer this. If you had to legally haunt your family with one ridiculous condition in your will, what would you force them to do? Write it in the comments like a future trap for your grandkids. And if this gave you at least 3 no-way moments, hit like and subscribe. The next batch of legal madness is already waiting.